was too bossy to my sisters. And I was shocked and amazed to hear her say that. And of course I denied it and didn't believe that I was the boss in the family, even though I was the oldest. But Mother said, she kept telling me to, please, no, don't do that so much. Don't boss those little girls around. So I decided in my own mind, since I believed that it was not true, to try it out. So that day or the next day, we were sitting around playing with something, and in my own devious little mind, I said, I'm just going to try this out. And I said to either Julie or Vicki, and I can't remember, I have a feeling it was Vicki, because she was younger, and I thought, well, if anybody would do this, it would be Vicki. And I said, for no reason at all, when we needed something, Vicki, please, not even please, Vicki, will you go get the scissors? And she hopped right up and ran and got the scissors, and I couldn't believe that I really was bossy, had that much power. What I hope is that I don't, that I didn't take that to heart. I don't feel like I used that power unrighteously the rest of my life.
Did she? Well.
I think Linda had more responsibilities as the oldest one. She certainly was always the neatest one till Martin.
Somebody wrote it down.
I was thinking back about when, I can't remember when Vicki was born. I must have been too young to remember that, but I do remember when Brian was born, and feeling kind of nervous about what kind of difference it was going to make in our lives to have another child there. And I remember that, I think it was the day she brought Brian home from the hospital. She said she put the baby down and got the three of us girls on her lap and read us from a comic book. And I know she was trying to make us not feel jealous of this baby.
Great memory. I don't remember that.
And then when Martin was born and all of us were teenagers, I can remember thinking, that he was the prettiest and the smartest baby, just the feelings that you'll eventually have for your own children we had for Martin. I remember when he was about 2 years old, all of us knew how to count to 10 in a different foreign language, and so we taught Martin, and he could count to 10 in 4 different languages.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He was so cute. The thing I remember about that was we'd say, this is how you spell dog, Martin, C-A-T.
Is that why I had all that trouble at school?
I remember.
Now I know.
Mother get after us for doing that.
Talking about when Brian was a baby, I have vague memories, but I didn't know where babies came from at that point. And I didn't know anything about Mother carrying the baby, but looking back, I can remember sitting on the floor with Mother, and she must have been pregnant. I can remember folding socks. We would help her fold socks. I remember that she had this big tummy because I remember putting a sock up there and letting it roll up her tummy for some reason. I didn't connect it with the baby tummy. But when I stop and think about memories, I think about little unexpected kindnesses and unexpected treats. The things that were surprises. How Daddy always used to bring us candy or comic books when he came from shopping. I remember one time when I was a schoolgirl, and he brought us each a little gift. And mine was some little pins that were shaped like crabs. It was just a set of pins, and their little pinchers moved. And, just for nothing. I think he brought us all a gift that time, and just for no reason, little things like that. And I was thinking about Mother a couple times that she was really kind to me. One that I mentioned earlier, we were on a trip to the beach, and I had to have been about 8 years old or something, too old to wet my pants. And we were waiting for the train or something, and I had this accident. And I just remember being mortified and just, thinking that I was really going to catch it, when they found out. And I just remember her because she was so kind. She just took me very efficiently to the restroom and helped me change, and never reprimanded me or, got mad at me for that. Another time I remember when we were living in Idaho, and I must have just been a little tiny thing, but I had some kind of nightmare at night, when you have this, you just don't want to stay in bed anymore, you start, thinking I think I dreamed that someone died late or something. So I didn't want to stay in bed, but it was late at night, and I remember thinking I was going to get in trouble. But I couldn't stay in bed, and so I got up, and Mother was sewing. And she didn't say a word. I just remember her letting me sit there by her feet sewing. I probably just laid there and fell asleep because I don't remember, but I just remember that she let me do it. And that treadle sewing machine. I remember sitting there by that, watching her feet, and she was probably making us doll clothes or pretty little dresses or something. Your memories are a little bit different, Martin.
Yeah, I'm a whole
few years
whole
behind.
area away.
What do you remember when we were still around? Do you remember very much? You didn't remember the cat
I remember the cat incident. That's interesting. This sort of gives me a whole new perspective on my life. No, I don't remember much really, even when Brian was still around. Just really vague memories in San Leandro.
Do you remember coming to Indiana?
Sure do.
Yeah, because you were like, what, 5 or 6 or something.
I
That
vividly
trip.
remember stuff like that.
Do you?
That Indiana trip I really remember.
So I remember
wearing
looking at
his
a picture.
beetle wig.
Getting a beetle wig and wearing it. Brian breaking his nose.
Oh, right. In the
And,
accident, a little icy accident.
I remember going to...
Because it was a terrible, the weather was really bad. There was snow.
Yeah. I think that's the first time I'd ever seen snow come down really hard. And that was really interesting.
Do you remember anything about when the grandchildren started to be born, how you felt? You were pretty young.
I have a memory. Okay, it's interesting you should bring that up. I have a memory of Thor, and Mom doesn't think it's a real memory. She thinks it's a made-up memory. But I don't know how I came to relate the story to people, but it just maybe it sounded good when I was a kid to say so. But it seems like I remember the first time I saw Thor, him making a mess in his pants and having it leave a big impression on me because I was 4 at the time, and we were still in San Leandro.
Gross, or?
No, just I think I was holding him or something. You let me hold him, and then he chose that moment to do his work. So.
Pretty shocking.
But most memories I have of Mom and Dad are things where they sacrificed for me. Which is kind of, those are the things that stand out. I remember a really good lesson Mom gave me on the concept of trade and money and that kind of thing. We were in a men's store somewhere. It was in Pleasanton. It wasn't that long ago, but I was probably 11, 12 years old.
That was a long time
And it was a long time ago, I'll tell you that. We're in this men's store, and I saw some sweater vest or something that I really wanted. Of course, everything you see, when you're that age, you really want it. And so I dragged Mom over there. She was doing grocery shopping or something. And, I said, Mom, I've got to have this, And she said, okay, I'll buy it for you. But and she didn't say it just like this, but she let me know that she had to do without something to buy that for me.
Interesting.
And I had never put that together up until that point. I always thought, well,
That always
Mom and
sure,
Dad,
yeah.
they just have stuff, they have money, and if I need something or want something, they get it for me. And I didn't realize until that moment that it had an effect on them. And I remember feeling so guilty about that for so long that she had to do without something so that I could have something. And those are the kind of memories that keep popping back into my mind about Mom and Dad.
Do you guys remember how Dad reacted whenever you were sick? I can always remember that he just turned to this big marshmallow and would just, if you were the person who was sick, you got special care, and it was the only time he really hovered over us, or
A lot of concern.
yeah. Otherwise, if things were going well, he knew Mother had things under control. But if we were sick, he just. And I remember the night before Martin was born,
So exciting.
having family prayer before they left for the hospital that things would go all right.
Really?
And just Dad looked real nervous and concerned for Mother,
I remember that the time I remember getting a spanking, and I think it was probably the last time I got a spanking from my father, had to do with being sick, and he was trying to give me some liquid medicine.
You were probably pretty small, weren't you?
Oh, I think I was probably 6 or 7 or maybe older. I can't
Heather
remember.
was just like like that too.
I would not take the medicine, and he got so angry, and I don't think I ever in my life ever saw him that angry again, and I think he did faint me, and I think he felt really badly afterwards. But he usually was so kind and caring when you were sick, but my memory of him being the maddest at me is
He knew it was a matter of life or death.
waiting for me to take
You know, I
this
can't.
medicine.
I can't ever recall Dad striking me.
I can't either. I don't have either one of them. I don't never being
Well,
sick.
and I think probably, you know,
You know how Daddy acted, and Mom and I were talking about this just the other night. When you were sick, or if you, at least I remember, if I was sick genuinely or just wanted to stay home from school, Daddy was the one to go to.
Yeah.
You know, you went to Mom and said you were sick. She said, "Here's an aspirin, go to school." You know. But Daddy, you know, he would, and you know, I took full advantage of it. I promise you.
figured
Yeah.
that out.
But it just reminded me of that when you mentioned how concerned Daddy was.
I
Mom,
inherited that from my mother. Take 2 aspirin.
Yeah.
and
well, I'm the
get
same way
well.
now. You know,
Nurse and you make
I'm more like
That's
Mom
why I thought
that
of
way.
it. Yeah, I am too.
You know, if somebody's sick, I mean, if I'm sick, just leave me alone. You know, I'll do my business and just leave me alone. And if somebody else is, I don't want to have to.
Hover over them and take-
Don't expect me to hover over you. You know, take your medicine and do what you have to do. But
Get well. Buck up.
But that's funny. That just reminded me of that.
Do any of you remember when Daddy took us on the trips when he was selling auto parts?
Oh, that was in
I-
Pocatello, Idaho. Didn't he take us one at a time?
Yeah, I remember that being so impressed that he would
took
take
us out
me.
to lunch.
and
And we
take
didn't
me
go
out
to
home.
the restaurant that
Oh,
night.
didn't you? Yeah, I went to a restaurant, I think for my first time, and I can still remember that day. It was raining, pouring rain, and just being with him and
I
just
do
feeling so
remember.
important, you know. And it was
That one
That
bit.
was amazing.
One of the things that is so impressive on my mind, and it's probably because we have so many pictures of them too, are the Easter dresses and outfits that Mother would make each year. And I remember that it was always quite a big production, especially because she did all the sewing.
I think all the time that she put in.
And she would,
We always got so many compliments.
I know, people were very impressed because it looked like 3 little triplets besides. And she would pick out the material, and then she would bring the material home. And I remember she usually had the material in mind for each child, and I was always hoping for the pink or lavender or red, and it was just sort of, and Julie would always get the blue or anything that was the blue, and Vicki got the leftover, whatever it was, yellow or lavender, whatever it was. And I remember one time Mother said, "This is not fair, Linda." Again, you don't get the first pick, and if Julie or Vicki wants the pink or the red, they can have it. And I can't even remember how that turned out. I
We
think
were probably afraid to ask.
I can't remember how I got it anyway. I know. I probably got it anyway. Or if I got the blue, I probably didn't even really like it as much as if I'd have had the pink. But she'd make coats and detailed little things all around the dresses that were just really impressive. And really, when you think about it, how much time it took. It really was an
Untold hours.
Yes, it was an investment in love on her part.
Well, I even remember one year I got pajamas and pajamas for my doll out of the same
Oh,
material,
I
and they were
remember
just
that, I
wonderfully. But it wasn't like the doll's pajamas were done quickly. They had all the same detail that my pajamas
Yeah,
had.
she did make
And
thoughtful.
my own children were surprised that our family didn't take many formal vacations when we were smaller. But you know, Daddy and Mother took us on many, many, many day trips. We went to San Francisco all the time. We went to museums. We went to the zoo. Went to the beach.
Oh, we went to the beach
But
a lot. The Golden Gate Park.
Yeah, just a lot of cultural kinds of experiences that I repeated later with my family. And I do remember one, and I don't remember if Martin was born yet, when we went for a day trip to Yosemite. It might have been before he was born.
I don't remember him going there.
But it sounds funny to think that we drove so far and didn't stay overnight. Mother bought us all new little pedal pusher outfits to go.
I remember
And it
that.
was a well photographed vacation. But it was literally one day. We drove up, spent every waking daylight minute in Yosemite doing everything we could, and then I remember the long drive home after midnight. Daddy was trying to
I
stay
must have
awake
been
on
asleep.
the
I
road.
don't remember.
But that, it wouldn't stand out in my mind any more vividly than if we'd gone to Hawaii, because it
Yeah.
was just, we didn't do that extensive of traveling, except for going back and forth to Idaho. And
Yes, we would travel to see relatives.
yes.
Well, speaking about all the pictures Daddy took of things, I think that gave us a feeling of self-esteem, don't you think? That
Oh,
he
yeah.
would think that you were so important that he would
He
just
had to
take picture
record it.
after picture. I remember one time, I think it was Brian and I in San Leandro were just playing kickball. Or you're either kicking or throwing a ball back and forth in the yard. And he got out the movie camera and he must have taken a half hour. We just felt like we were really athletes.
We're gonna be on TV.
We just really kicked that ball, So I think that was a neat experience too that we did.
Well, I wasn't around when you guys were getting all those groovy day trips.
Yeah. You didn't go anywhere, right? You got the longer trip.
That's right.
You had the air-conditioned car when you were
That's right. That's right. When Mom, when you were in Indiana, was it? And you had Steven, and she went back to help you, and Dad took me on that trip to Yosemite.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Just
And,
you and Dad.
Just me and Dad. It's the first time that had ever happened, and I still have such vivid memories of that. And I know I had to have been 14 or 15 because he even let me drive the car for a while, even though I didn't have a learner's permit. And we went to Bodie, the ghost town. That's the first time I had ever been there. And this was like a 3 or 4 day trip, and it was so much fun, and I just felt like
Wow.
so important.
I may grow up yet.
Yeah, well, here's my dad taking me on this trip, and we're just alone. And we would go. He would just pull to the side of the road and get out of the car with his camera, and we would just start walking through the forest, just wherever. And if he saw a flower he liked, he would stop and take a picture of it, or
That's a neat
just spending hours and hours with him doing stuff like that. And he remembers it. I remember a few years ago I asked him about it, and he remembered it as being really I was a total trial.
Oh.
And he thought I never
You were
enjoyed
pain,
it.
huh?
Yeah, all those years
He was
thought.
dragging you along.
Yeah, he thought I didn't enjoy it, and I was a whiner and all of that. And he was surprised when he found out how much I
that
remembered.
you remembered it.
It was neat. So I keep giving these backward glances to the camera like that. Maybe Brian can cut those out.
When I was really little, I had a little washing machine to wash doll clothes in. I must have been very small, and it was quite elaborate. You had to add water and soap and made kind of a splashing mess. But I can remember that I had to ask and ask and ask many times before I got to do it, and I could never understand why I couldn't do the washing machine every day. And later on, when my children were grown and they had messy things to do, big elaborate paint sets or something, I thought, now I know why Mother doesn't want me to get my own washing machine. But can you guys, other girls, remember her letting us go through the trash can in Twin Falls and pull out rice boxes and other
To
clean
play
garbage
store?
to play store with?
Yeah.
She'd make sure that if it was a can, it didn't have any sharp edges. But then we take all this stuff out of the trash and set it up out in the yard. It would be our grocery store. I thought, what a mess! All this garbage all over the yard. I don't remember. We had little cash registers.
I remember the cash register.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we had play money.
Well, we had to play something with it.
Do you remember when we slept together and
3 in a bed.
I think I was in the middle, but I remember it was kind of comforting. You remember whispering before we would go to sleep at night?
I remember Linda
telling
putting
each
her
other
cold
stories.
It doesn't change.
You think sometimes that the children, they had fewer bedrooms and everything. Nowadays we think everyone has to have their own room, but there was some experience.
Although I do remember when moving to that 3-bedroom house and thinking, that was neat. It's only 2 in a bed.
How did Daddy survive in that house with 1 bathroom,
Oh, I
5 children? And how do you ever get in there, especially with all these vain daughters?
Oh, I know we were all
Do you remember him
teenagers
getting in the bathtub and falling asleep?
Yeah, and then his paperback book would fall. I don't
It's not really end. So.
Okay,
Well,
that's
that's he's just
one
gonna.
thing.
We got enough. We could probably go on all day. We didn't think we could.
Oh.
Well, I can't think of anything.
Really, we could. We should have gotten had a bunch of tapes, you know, and just sat here for like 3
Can
hours.
you view any of the? I don't want to stay for the whole thing.
Can
I
you just
gotta
make
get back
sure
to
it's
work.
okay, or
Yeah.
okay?
So at least we'll know, and if we have to, we can get that.
We can always go into a room tonight.
Heather said she might come by with Stephanie sometime this afternoon.
Was she around town? Or?
Yeah, she's in town to try her wedding dress.
Oh.
Now, is your
How they
shaking
coming
it,
along?
or she-
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, that was a question. I'm so glad that came up. You know, she's got the little card to send back. Now, are the children invited? I just remember
Oh, we're gonna
reading.
send that back. That's right.
Well, Diana asked her, and she hadn't told me other than that. Oh, you know, it's small and everything. And she said, I asked her Christmas night. Diana wants to know whether to bring the kids or not. You know, and she said, yeah, we can handle it.
Well, my little girls are really, when I said Heather was getting married, and you know, I remember reading in Ann Landers or something, somebody saying, we invited the parents and we get back
No,
these
she-
RSVP cards
I
saying,
know that the children
saying,
on
you know,
his
we
side of
invited
the
2
family-
and they say we're bringing 8. You know.
Well, it's the kind of hors d'oeuvre, stuffed mushrooms and stuff
Is
that
that
she's
what's
having,
gonna
the
be?
kids won't even like
No,
that much. They're hot hors
Well,
d'oeuvres.
and they are more interested in seeing the wedding and the wedding.
Stephanie's gonna be there and really needs to
They
get
probably won't
acquainted
see
with
that
the
many